the environment. And I just want to point out that Fermilab is a environmental research park. Okay, it's designated a national environmental research park, one of only 6 in the nation. And we dedicate quite a bit of effort to the restoration of the original prairie plants that were here before the settlers came. And so, you know, every spring and fall we come around, and our firemen don't put out fires, they set fires, actually. I don't know, has anybody here seen this laboratory on fire?
See the after.
Yeah, actually you can, I think you can even see the black charred plants right now. But every year they set the laboratory on fire. It's really a beautiful sight. So if you ever see towering clouds of smoke coming out of the laboratory, come on outside. It's really fun. You go down the road and there'll be like fire sometimes on either side of you. It's really pleasant.
They look school at night.
No, they don't do it at night. They do it only on, of course, very, very low wind days and during the day. And of course, they do it right. Our firemen are very good. But the biggest issue in the environment is the greenhouse effect. Okay, and the scope and cause of global warming is a physics issue and must be addressed in a scientific, not a political way. Okay, that is, the science of it must be addressed in a scientific way. Okay, let me reiterate, you don't want to turn on your radio and hear somebody blathering on about the science of global warming who hasn't had a firm grounding in this, okay? I'm not an expert on it. There are huge uncertainties, but the point is you don't address these certainties in a political fashion or a talk radio kind of fashion. You have to hit the books, okay? You have to do your homework. And so you got to look at data. And here's, for example, a graph of the combined land surface, air, and land and sea surface temperatures over the last, about 150 years or so. And you can see a trend here, okay? And this is particularly dominant in the Arctic regions. And so there's a very good physics mechanism explaining all this, and that is the increased carbon dioxide content in an atmosphere can absorb more long wavelength radiation. This is a science issue, right? It's not a politics kind of thing. And in fact, if you look back in time over 500,000 years, then this is the natural variation in CO2 concentrations, and this is where we'll be in your lifetime, something that this Earth has not seen in 1,000,000 years, or millions of years, I should say, many millions of years, okay? Because you can go back in time even further. But this just shows how temperature and CO2 are quite related. In this instance, this will the temperature will affect carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide affects temperature. It's a very difficult business trying to reconstruct these temperature changes from both the solar influence and the carbon dioxide influence. But people have done this, and they know how to do this kind of work, okay? The point is it's a very scary place to be, okay? And so we understand the driving force of carbon dioxide on the what's called forcing of the atmosphere, which you measure in watts per square meter. This is a very physics-driven issue. And so we have a whole agency that's supposed to be devoted to this kind of research, okay? Environmental Protection Agency, and they put out some time ago a nice, what I consider a very nice summary, which is what do you know for certain? You know, what are the aspects of this problem you know for certain? What is likely but not certain, where more researches need to be done? And there's some big unknowns. And you know, I'll be first to admit that there's huge unknowns about this issue. But here you can see a classic interplay between science and politics, okay? And this is a National Academy of Sciences, which is you should very, very well respect on all scientific issues. It is the nation's science board, okay? And they had a report on the current research plan for global climate change. Again, this was a couple of years ago, but still relevant. And this guy from the Union of Concerned Scientists, which is really a political lobbying group, said, look at this report from the National Academy of Sciences. it says that the president is using his research plan as cover to create the impression that they're concerned about global warming. He says he wants sound science to guide the debate, yet dismisses and avoids anything that doesn't mesh with his political views. We call on the administration to heed the National Academy of Sciences advice to lead our country into a future well informed about the risks of climate change and ways of addressing it. So, this is a classic case of a huge clash between science and politics, and you gotta separate the two and find out what's going on.
How do we deal, if at all, with those who claim that global warming isn't an anthropogenic issue?
Well, again, the question, if you didn't hear, was how do you respond to people about who say that the increased CO2 levels aren't made by man, for instance? Is that, yeah. Well, it turns out that's a science issue, okay? It's not a politics issue. You go and you look it up. Well, there's certain isotopes of carbon that are come from fossil fuels versus sources in the natural environment, okay? And you can measure those isotope ratios. And so you go in and you measure them and you compare them to what you expect. There's a prediction, there's a measurement, there is a conclusion. It's a very science-oriented thing. It's not a politics-oriented thing. And so it could be that the cost of addressing global warming is too much, okay, for society. That may be true, and that's not a scientist's point where he can argue. That is a politician or an economist's point of view, okay? But you got to get the science right first.